Hey y'all, hi. So, too busy. It's too busy. This is a pretty common aesthetic critique. We've heard it a lot. Busyness in an outfit or a room, it isn't quite the same as clashing or something being untidy. It's not the same as an outfit failing to be cohesive or being too loud, although busyness can intersect with all of those complaints. But the spectrum of busyness in aesthetics, so that which dials up to busy and dials down to calm or simple, and then maybe dials down further than that to sterile or boring, it can actually be isolated from all of those other factors. It has to do with just one thing: how many elements are combined. How many? It's a numbers game. Or if a single item is inherently busy, it's because it contains multiple elements within itself. It is multiplicitous instead of singular. So it is a numbers game, which makes it an enticing principle to discuss, especially for those of you who might feel overwhelmed by the subjectivity of personal style and home decor. When you are getting dressed or when you're furnishing a room in your house, there is always this question, whether it's subconscious or conscious, this question of when to stop adding more pieces. Or sometimes it's a matter of how many separate pieces you'll use to cover the basic necessities of the project. For example, a long-sleeved dress covers your whole body with just one garment, whereas a pair of pants, a tank top, and a blazer, that uses 3 garments to cover the same amount of skin. So today we are going to explore 3 questions about busyness. Please subscribe, etc., etc. Click through to my book, which I will link in the description box below, etc., etc. Let's get into the meat of the video. Question 1. Is there a universal happy medium on the spectrum from busy to calm? I suggest to you that no, there is not. I think very often online, when stylists or influencers are trying to problem solve for a specific outfit or a specific room, like when designers are trying to problem solve for a specific room, and they're tinkering with the number of elements, so like dialing the busyness up and then dialing it down and doing that for show, they give the impression that there is like a universal perfect level of chaos, like a perfect spot on that spectrum between multiplicity and simplicity, and that people with taste can find it and people who don't have taste can't. And for those of you who are trying to make your own way, like you're building a wardrobe, you're furnishing your home, and you aren't trained in aesthetics, you feel like you don't have this inside information, and it's super stressful. You feel boxed out from the ability to just somehow know when the elements are balanced, like when it's enough but not too much. And there are aesthetic principles of balance that help create a sense of harmony for most people, if not universally. It's kind of a question that's up for academic debate. Things like symmetry, triangulation, proportion and scale, emphasis and contrast. But the thing is, those principles can work in a really, really calm room, and they can also work in a really busy room. Same with outfits. The nature of the chaos might need a bit of sculpting, but the level of the chaos can be anything and still work. So what does that mean? It means you get to choose. The ideal level of calm versus busyness isn't something that tastemakers dictate to you. It's something that you choose based on what you know about yourself and what makes you feel good in your body and in your home. So maybe the best way to get in touch with your own busyness preference, your own nature chaos, is to gather imagery that resonates with you and assess it. For example, I'll use myself as an example. Almost all of my saved imagery of outfits, like inspiring outfits, are on the calm side of the spectrum. Like there are only a few elements in the outfit. On my mood board of images where I've saved them because I would like to dress that way, that is the case. However, most of my saved images of interiors, rooms, are actually on the slightly busier side. Lots of wonky art, layered textiles, piles of books, open shelving. It was a great day for me when I realized consciously that I prefer less busy outfits, but that when the rooms of my home are less busy, they feel awkward and underfurnished to me. That knowledge, essentially knowledge of my own aesthetic preferences that I dredged up out of my subconscious and looked at directly, it has given me much needed confidence, especially when it comes to furnishing my home. I think that's where I needed the guidance, and this really unlocked it. But it might be the opposite for you. I had this friend in college who wore spectacularly busy outfits, but she preferred to keep an almost sterile space at home. Or it might be that you prefer super calm, super neutral spaces and outfits, but you've been like hanging a lot of art and wearing a lot of accessories because you're following formulas that other people are presenting to you, and it feels like that's what you should be doing in order to complete your outfits or in order to furnish your home. But looking at imagery that you really, really love, imagery that really compels you, it will help you to remove that veil. It will help the scales to fall from your eyes. A very, very busy, very layered look can be an A+, and a very, very simple, almost painfully calm and pared back look with very few elements can also be an A+. So find out what you like and then give yourself permission to embody it. Even if other people might consider it too busy or too simple. Other people inevitably will. They will, but it's not their body and it's not their house. Question number 2. What is the relationship between aesthetic busyness and untidiness? This question fascinates me. It fascinates me. And here's why. A room with very few design elements, like a very, very calm room, it can feel busy if it's cluttered with stuff. And a very simple outfit can also feel busy if the styling is untidy, if it's like coming undone, like hair and scarf wrinkles, loose threads, extra bags that you're toting around, too much stuff in your bag. It can make the presence of the outfit busy. But busyness isn't bad, as we've just discussed. It's a matter of aesthetic preference. And untidiness is actually an aesthetic consideration. I sometimes like to think of it as signs of life. So like this cozy little side room in our house, it looks great in there when everything is all cleaned up and totally put away, but it also looks great. I would actually go so far as to say it looks better. It looks ever so slightly better even than that, just singing a slightly more melodic visual tune when there's like a half-finished kid puzzle on the rug, or when Felix has left his guitar on the window seat. Similarly, broken-in leather boots, a really old vintage graphic tee, wrinkled linen, a messy bun in your hair. Signs of life breathe life into an outfit. Even a quite polished outfit, or like a high formality level outfit, can benefit from this. Instead of wearing your suit jacket, it's over your arm, sleeves are rolled up, chapped lips when you're dressed up for a fancy dinner. Signs of life. So it's not simple. It's so interesting. And I have more to say on this. There's more to the answer to question number 2. But speaking of signs of life, CV's is my video sponsor today. And I've had these shoes for months now. They have really gotten lived in, although they didn't require any breaking in to begin with to be comfortable, which is typical of the brand. CV's is a shoe brand. They make a full range of footwear, mules, sneakers, boots, some really cool slip-ons, and all of it has what is essentially sneaker level comfort. These mules, this is the absolute star pair of shoes for me. They are so comfortable and easy to put on. They're appropriate for so many outfits and settings. I find myself choosing them constantly. These mules also have a supportive footbed and a Vibram traction sole, so I feel like I can wear them almost anywhere and I can walk in them for a really long time. I also love to wear this 90s inspired trainer, the CV's Acorn. This shoe comes in some incredible statement colors. I can't stop thinking about the green ones. A sign of life if I ever saw one. Although, of course, the colorway that I have is gorgeous. And I love the suede detailing, the texture. Again, the comfort, the durability. They have a breathable, bio-based memory foam insole. And there's some real height on this shoe. They're very fashion. CV's has a cool brand story too. It originally launched in 1964. It was one of the first sneaker brand, like casual comfort sneaker brands in history. The brand disappeared for 40 years. It was rediscovered by a sneaker designer who was thrifting in Tokyo and stumbled across a pair of vintage CVs. That was in 2005, and since then the brand has been resurrected. It has all been done with a lot of heart and consideration for that intersection between fashion and function. I love my CVs, and I'm grateful to be sponsored by them. So I was just saying that untidiness adds busyness, but that busyness isn't bad. That signs of life, like a bit of a mess, can be very lovely in a room or in an outfit. But it's not that simple as I'm sure you have been thinking, right? You've been thinking like, wait a minute though. Untidiness can be so unpleasant, and that kind of busyness can be really overwhelming. And yeah, because untidiness ratchets up the level of busyness in an outfit or a space, it can easily move you out of your personal chaos level comfort zone. So your room is like just the right amount of busy when it's tidy, just the right amount of busy for you. Then when it gets untidy, it becomes too busy for you. This is especially true in spaces that are prone to untidiness. So in our side room, the example from before, when all of the toys are out, when like they're all out and you can't see the rug and books are piled all over the chaise, then the room is overwhelmed. The untidiness begins to obscure the other visual elements of the room, and something's lost. It becomes too busy, right? It all becomes a wash. With my outfits, I have learned I actually have more leeway. Because there are only usually 2 or 3 discrete elements in my outfits, I can have like totally chaotic hair or a super oversized wrinkled shirt, and it still is relatively serene. It still feels relatively serene. You can see what I'm getting at, right? Spaces and outfits are for living life. So their level of tidiness is going to fluctuate constantly. In the same way that an universally ideal level of busyness is an illusion. A fixed level of busyness in a room or in an outfit is also an illusion. Spaces become busier and then less busy as they get messy and then get tidied up. But at every point, at every phase in that cyclical process, you're living in it. So when there are toys everywhere, design-wise, something is lost, but something is also kind of gained at those times, right? I'm glad it's not like that all the time, but at those times, a sense of joy, of being unfettered, a sense of the space being used for the purpose for which it was designed, like the room holding the thing that it was intended to hold. Same with a super messy kitchen after cooking a big meal, or a dining room table after a big meal when we've had company over and everybody's just eaten. The busyness of untidiness is signs of life, but it's something that you have to recognize because you're going to be living through it. It's something you have to recognize or incorporate into your calculations when you are making those aesthetic decisions about how much to keep adding to the baseline of a room or an outfit. So, question number 3, how can you apply these principles to your outfits and the rooms of your home? How can you do the thing that I just talked about? Simply put, when you are trying to make an outfit work or a room work, think about this: the busyness event horizon. It might not be anywhere close to what you think. That's what happened to me with rooms. I found myself adding more and more layers, more and more textiles and books and art to some of our rooms, and being surprised by not just how far I can go, but how far I need to keep going until it feels like it's just busy enough. But with outfits, for me, with my preferences, I can cross that event horizon by accident in a blink. But again, your mileage will very likely vary because it's a matter of personal taste. When it comes to the effect of untidiness, I think the way to apply this knowledge is to base your ideal level of busyness on how the space or outfit will feel when it's lived in, not how it will feel when it's pristine. Mess can be beautiful, right? Especially when the backdrop, like the setting for the mess, is designed to handle it, is expecting it, so to speak. And depending on your preferences, this could mean adding more to the baseline or adding less to the baseline. I feel like this playroom area actually became more able to handle mess beautifully when it became more layered, more textured. It's like it got busy enough to still feel beautiful even when it got busier with mess. More elements made it feel busier in a good way and cozier. It made it feel more like it's supposed to be full of life. Another person might prefer a super pared back playroom with very, very few visual elements so that when it explodes with magnetiles and Brio train tracks, there's nothing competing with the mess for visual attention. That's like another different way to highlight the beauty of mess, like to highlight the beauty of that kind of busyness. And I feel like I've seen rooms like that, like playrooms like that on Instagram. It also works. And actually, that is more like what I've done in our bedroom in the house we're living in now. There are often piles of clothes in there, like a lot of clothes get sort of processed through the bedroom. So it gets messy and then not messy and then not specifically with clothes. But I really wanted the bedroom to be calm, almost more like the way I conceive of my outfits. I wanted it to be calmer than the other rooms. So there's not a lot going on. It's not as busy. At its neutral, at its baseline, it's not as busy as the other rooms of the house. Not a lot on the headboard, not a lot on the walls, not a lot of furniture. And when there are 2 laundry baskets on the bed and a pile of towels, it's actually quite lovely because the backdrop is so serene. So that's how you can apply the knowledge that signs of life cause a space's busyness to fluctuate up and down. And the knowledge that this is natural. And the rest is just, we have kind of already covered it. It's like taking some time to consider what you like, what you really, really crave in this regard. Busy, very busy, wildly busy, and messy. That's not what we usually see on social media, but if that's what makes you feel good, that's okay. Some people thrive with those kinds of layers of life. Think about like a super chaotic painter's studio. It is a kind of aesthetic. Or do you crave empty space, calm, simplicity, as few elements as possible? Maybe you do genuinely want that, but you've never realized how far from it you actually are in the rooms of your home or in the clothes that you wear. Like, for example, how much clutter out in the open can keep your space from feeling calm, even when there are fairly few pieces of furniture, or like fairly few other visual elements. I guess what I'm recommending is that you identify your personal preferred level of busyness, and then maybe consider pushing yourself like further into that ideal than you thought would be possible for you or than you thought would be optimal. Pare back your outfits to super simplicity or like layer a bunch of elements until it's very chaotic. I think one of the reasons to push it like that is that no matter where you land, again with the baseline, it's still going to fluctuate. And you can usually do it just by rearranging the stuff in your rooms or changing the way you combine the clothes that you wear. So it's a low stakes, high reward way to play with beauty in your life. I hope that this reframing has made you excited about your own capacity and desire to play with beauty in this way. I also just really appreciate you for being here and spending this time with me. Thank you. And please take care of yourself. For me lately, this has definitely meant sitting quietly with myself, taking time. So please do that. Put away your screens, nurture yourself, and sit quietly with yourself.